He told me he needed alone time to reset. Turns out, his version of self-care included champagne, rose oil, and another woman. The receipt was still warm when I pulled it from his jacket pocket. A spa logo embossed in gold. 2 services. A 90-minute couples massage and a champagne soak. My name was nowhere on it, but his was. Alongside one I recognized too well, Brielle, his co-worker, his professional confidant. I stared at the invoice, heart calm in a way that scared me. This wasn't the first betrayal, just the boldest. He told me he was taking the weekend to reset, that he needed space, that his therapist recommended solo reflection. What he didn't mention was the rose oil or the King Suite add-on. For a second, I wondered if I was overreacting. Maybe it was a group thing. Maybe the receptionist typed the names wrong. But then I saw the note section. Romance enhancement requested. Discreet. That word, discreet, stabbed harder than the betrayal itself. He wasn't even being reckless. He was being strategic. I didn't cry. Not yet. I placed the receipt on the kitchen counter, lined up perfectly with the granite swirl like an exhibit in a gallery of gaslighting. I stared at it, then stared at our wedding photo on the fridge. He was kissing my cheek. I was laughing. Now, I felt nothing. Mark got home that evening smelling like lemongrass and arrogance. He kissed my forehead like a stranger. Asked how my day was. I said it was fine. Then I asked, "Feel more reset?" He nodded. It was exactly what I needed. I smiled, because he had no idea. He went to shower. I waited until I heard the water. Then I took the receipt, scanned it, and uploaded it to a cloud folder I'd titled Closure Materials. I already had screenshots of their texts from months ago. I just never thought I'd need to use them. Until now. When he came back, he wrapped his arms around me. "Missed you," he whispered. The same arms that had held her hours earlier. I leaned into the hug, memorizing the feeling, not out of love, but for documentation. I was done guessing, done hoping, done asking for truth from a man who gave me lies with a smile. The next day, I called my best friend Jordan. She's a lawyer. Sharp as glass, loyal as blood. I sent her the invoice. She called me within minutes. "This isn't just a mistake," she said. "This is deliberate." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. He booked it under their names. They weren't hiding. They were mocking. That night, I Googled Brielle. Her LinkedIn popped. Up first, then her corporate bio, HR specialist, professional integrity, employee ethics. I almost laughed. The irony was delicious. I found the company's HR inbox, found her boss's email, found their policy PDF, and started drafting. But I didn't hit send yet. I wasn't ready. I wanted to wait. I wanted to watch him lie to me one more time. Not because I needed proof, because I needed to remember how easy it was for him, how guiltless, how performative. At dinner, he talked about taking a trip together soon. "Somewhere warm," he said. "Just us." I nodded. "Sounds amazing." Because I already knew the next trip he took wouldn't be with me. It would be with a severance package from his job and a scandal to his name. As he slept, I looked at him. Really looked. Not with longing, with observation. His face was peaceful, unbothered. I wondered if he ever dreamed about the moment I'd find out, or if he truly believed I never would, that I'd keep playing the role he wrote for me, silent, sweet, replaceable. He thought I wouldn't find out. But I did, and the truth was cleaner than I expected. No screaming, no tears, just strategy, planning, documentation, and soon, invoicing. We met at a networking event. one of those hotel conference rooms with bad lighting and overpriced wine. He was standing near the cheese table, laughing too loud at something someone said. I rolled my eyes. He noticed. And somehow, that turned into a 3-hour conversation in the hotel bar. Mark had charm, not the obvious kind. He was subtle, self-assured, the type of man who listened like you were the only voice in a room full of ambition. I told myself it was rare, that feeling of being seen. I didn't realize then. Narcissists are great at eye contact. He sent flowers the next day. Peonies, my favorite, though I never told him that. Good guess, he said when I asked. I thought it was fate. I didn't know back then that men like Mark study women the way scammers study bank codes. Every detail is leverage. Our relationship moved quickly. Within 6 months, we were living together. Within a year, we were married. People said we looked like we belonged in a magazine. Polished, successful, effortless. What they didn't see was how hard I worked to keep everything in place. Mark thrived in public. Dinners, events, panels. He'd shine under lights and squeeze, my hand just tight enough to remind me I was lucky. And I believed it. I believed being loved by someone like him was a prize. I didn't know it was a performance. We started a business together. My idea, his funding. He called me the brain, told everyone he was just the money. It sounded sweet, empowering. But in private, every decision had to go through him. I just know how people think, he'd say. Translation. I know how to control the narrative. When things were good, they were magnetic. Spontaneous getaways, dancing in the kitchen, mornings wrapped in sheets and coffee breath. He made me feel like we were building something unshakable. I realize now, I was building. He was just decorating. The cracks started small. Missed dinners, last-minute cancellations, new passwords on shared devices. He said I was paranoid, that I needed to stop looking for problems. So I stopped asking. I told myself good wives trust. I didn't realize good wives get used. Brielle entered our lives 2 years ago. At first, she was just a name, someone in HR who helped smooth things out. Mark mentioned her in passing, always as a professional. Then she started appearing at events, smiling too much, laughing too hard at jokes I'd heard him tell 10 other women. Once she texted him during dinner. He smiled at the screen. I asked who it was. Work stuff, he said. Nothing serious. He turned his phone over. I smiled, but my stomach twisted. That was the first time I lied to myself. Told myself instinct was insecurity. Jordan warned me. You trust too easily, she said. You forgive too quickly. I shrugged it off. Loyalty was my compass. I didn't realize I was navigating a map he'd been redrawing for years. He started calling me intense when I asked for more time together. Said I was too much, that I needed hobbies. I got one. It was called survival. And I became very, very good at it. We stopped being a couple long before the massage, but I kept showing up. Because that's what I'd always done. Believed in love. Fought for potential. Until I realized I was the only one fighting. Looking back, I don't think he ever expected me to leave. He thought I'd settle, that I'd accept crumbs and call them meals, that I'd keep shrinking to make room for his ego. But I was done shrinking. He gave her rose oil. I gave him consequences. He started correcting me in front of people. Subtle things, the way I told a story, a number I got slightly wrong. He'd smile, laugh, say, "That's not exactly how it happened." Everyone would chuckle. I'd laugh too. But inside something recoiled. We used to brainstorm business ideas together. Dream big. Build plans. Then one day, he stopped asking for my input. "You've got enough on your plate," he said. But I didn't. I was being sidelined. Slowly. strategically, until the business that had my fingerprints on every inch felt like a borrowed office. He started working late, not every night, just enough to shift the rhythm, enough that I'd stop expecting dinner, stop waiting up. When I asked if something was wrong, he'd sigh. "Why do you always assume the worst?" It wasn't an answer. It was a gaslight. Brielle's name came up more often. At first, she was just good at logistics. Then it was, she really gets how I work. Then, she's been a godsend with the team. Always framed like admiration. But every time he said her name, I felt like I was being erased. He changed his phone background, from a photo of us to some vague ocean shot. "I just wanted something calming," he said. But calm isn't the reason men hide your face from their screens. Guilt is. I once reached for his phone to check the time. He snatched it so fast it hit the floor. "Sorry," he said, picking it up. "I just hate people touching my stuff." But I wasn't people. I was his wife, or at least I used to be. One night, I asked him directly, "Is there something going on with her?" He stared at me. Cold. Measured. "Are you serious?" he said. "You really want to sabotage everything we've built over a hunch?" And just like that, the problem became me. I started noticing her perfume. Not on me. On him. Soft, floral, not my scent. Once, I mentioned it. He shrugged. "She hugged me at the office. Big deal." It was always small things, always explained away. Until I started feeling like the crazy one for connecting the dots. He stopped wearing his wedding ring. "It's uncomfortable when I type," he said. "I just forget sometimes." But I remembered the first time he put it on, how he said, "I'll never take it off." Turns out, never has a pretty short shelf life with men like him. Found a receipt once. Dinner for 2. A wine bar across town. When I asked, he rolled his eyes. It was work. I almost believed him. Until I found the Uber receipt, drop off at her address, not his. I didn't confront him. Not then. I was collecting. Brielle started liking my posts, commenting little compliments. "You're glowing. Power couple energy." I almost admired the audacity. It takes a special kind of woman to flirt with your husband and then flatter you to your face. He stopped touching me. No goodnight kisses, no back of the neck grazes. Just absence. Intimacy became a myth. I asked once if he still found me attractive. He blinked, said, "Why wouldn't I?" But his eyes told the truth his mouth wouldn't say. When I brought up therapy, he said, "Maybe you should go." Not we, just you. Like I was the malfunction, the hysteric, the woman too emotional to be taken seriously. I booked a session, not to fix us, but to find out when I lost myself. I started writing things down, every excuse, every shift in behavior. I wasn't sure what I was building, but something inside me whispered, "You'll need this." And I did. Because when the massage receipt showed up, I already had the rest of the story. He thought I was still in the fog, still begging for scraps. But I wasn't begging. I was watching, and I was almost ready to burn it all down. It was supposed to be a quiet weekend. I'd planned to work on the living room, maybe paint. Mark said he needed time to recalibrate, that he was feeling mentally drained. I didn't argue. I nodded like the good wife he was used to. He packed a small duffel, kissed me on the cheek, and left by noon. By sunset, I was folding laundry when I heard his iPad ping. He'd forgotten it. Again. I glanced at the screen. Reflex, not intention. A message preview from Brielle. That soak felt sinful, still smelling like champagne and you. My hand froze. The towel fell to the floor. The room didn't. I opened the message thread, scrolled, read. Kept reading even when I felt my stomach turn. There were voice notes, photos. One of her feet beside his in the massage suite. One of her wearing the hotel robe, the robe I'd bought him for our anniversary. I clicked save, save, save. Every message, every receipt, every proof. He texted me that night. Hope your day's been good. Thinking of you. I stared at the screen, fingers shaking. Thinking of you, while her lipstick was still on his collar, while their romantic enhancement was still fresh in the air. My throat tightened, but I didn't cry. I took a screenshot instead. The next morning, the spa invoice was emailed to our shared account. I almost laughed. He didn't even try to hide it. His name, her name, their services, the full itinerary. And at the bottom, thank you for choosing our couple's experience. We hope to see you again soon. The insult was printed. I checked the bank. It was charged to our joint card. Our shared money paid for her pleasure, her massage, her post-coital mimosa. My hands clenched into fists so hard my nails left crescents in my palms. This wasn't just betrayal. It was audacity. I called Jordan. It's confirmed, I said. I have everything. She didn't ask for proof. She knew me. Knew I wouldn't say it unless I had it all lined up. Okay, she said. You want war? I didn't pause. No. I want clarity. And I want consequences. Mark returned Sunday night humming. Literally humming. Walked into the kitchen, hugged me from behind. Missed you, he said. I smiled. Did you relax? He nodded, too quickly. Yeah. Just what I needed. I leaned back against him, let him think he was safe. Let him lie in peace. That night, I made dinner. We ate. I listened. He talked about nothing, the weather, the news. I said little. Just observed. Every blink, every pause, every time he lied through a grin. He had no idea I knew. No idea the end had already started. After he fell asleep, I stared at the ceiling. Thought about the 10 years I'd spent loving a man who used that love like currency. I pictured her face. Brielle. Young. Ambitious. Unaware. Or uncaring. That she was a chapter in a very old script. I didn't hate her. I pitied her. She thought she'd won. I pulled the spa invoice from my drawer. Folded it neatly. Attached the screenshots. Logged into my email. Addressed it to Brielle's corporate inbox. CC'd her boss. Subject line: Your employee's wellness weekend, paid by a married man. I hovered over send. My heart raced. Not from fear, from certainty. This wasn't revenge. It was the truth, delivered with a timestamp and a PDF. I clicked and exhaled. The morning after I sent the email, I woke up before the sun. My heart was thudding like I'd run a marathon in my sleep. I reached for my phone instinctively. No texts, no missed calls, no apology. Just silence. The kind of silence that wraps around your throat. I walked into the kitchen and made coffee out of habit. I stared at the steam rising, wondering how I got here. A wife, a business partner, a believer. And now, an executioner. The cup shook in my hand. I set it down. My body was calm. My mind, a battlefield. The inbox pinged at 8:47 a.m. One email from Brielle's boss. One sentence. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. No questions, no denial, just corporate coldness. I stared at it, waiting for something more. But there was no satisfaction. Not yet. Just a hollow quiet. Then the phone rang. Mark. I didn't answer. He called again and again. By the fourth time, I picked up. What did you do? He asked, breathless. No greeting, no remorse, just blame. That was his first instinct. Even now. Blame me. Like I'd planted the spa reservation in his wallet. I didn't raise my voice. I sent the invoice, I said. To the woman you booked it with, and her boss. You're welcome. Silence on his end. Heavy. Then rage. You're destroying my career. I almost laughed. No. You destroyed your career. I just copied the receipt. He hung up. I sat on the kitchen floor, wrapped myself in a blanket that still smelled like our house, our life. The walls felt unfamiliar now, like I was squatting inside someone else's marriage. I wanted to scream, to shatter something. But all I could do was shake. Jordan came by around noon. She didn't say much, just handed me a smoothie, sat beside me on the floor, and waited. I broke after 2 sips. Ugly crying, gasping sobs, the kind that sound like you're being pulled apart. She held my hand, didn't let go. I told her everything. How I'd seen the signs, how I'd made excuses, how I kept shrinking to stay in love with a man who only expanded. He made me feel small, I whispered, like I was always too much or not enough. Depending on what suited him. She didn't say, "You'll be okay." She just said, "You're not crazy." And that broke me even more. Because gaslighting doesn't just distort reality, it makes you fear your own memory. I had spent years apologizing for being right. I didn't eat much that week. I slept on the couch. Every room felt like a crime scene. Every photo frame a punch to the gut. I didn't touch our bed. Couldn't. It felt like betrayal soaked into the sheets. Mark tried again. A long message this time. Words like regret, weak moment, forgive. He asked to talk like adults. I read it, then archived it. I didn't delete it. I wanted to remember the version of him who only found humility when exposure knocked on his door. The business took a hit. A few clients pulled out. Whispers started. But I didn't care. Reputation could be rebuilt. Integrity couldn't. And I still had mine. Scorched, yes, but unbroken. One night, I opened our wedding album, just to see if anything felt real. I flipped through it slowly, page by page. And somewhere between the vows and the first dance, I realized I didn't recognize the woman in the white dress. She looked happy, hopeful, naive. I closed the book, set it down gently, not with sadness, with finality. That version of me, she was gone. And in her place stood someone who had nothing left to give, except the truth. And the truth was about to burn everything he still thought he owned. I didn't set out to dig, not at first. But once you stop believing their version of reality, everything starts to unravel. I found an old phone of his in the junk drawer, dead, dusty. I charged it anyway. Curiosity, instinct, whatever it was, I followed it. When it turned on, it was like unlocking a vault. Old texts, emails, cloud backups. He hadn't wiped it. Maybe he thought I'd never look. Maybe he thought I still trusted him. Either way, what I found made everything I already knew feel like a footnote. There were photos of them. Together. In my house, in my robe. On the sofa where we opened Christmas presents. She wore my slippers in one shot. The same ones he said disappeared in the laundry. I felt my mouth go dry. He hadn't just cheated. He'd desecrated. I found flight confirmations. Business trips he never mentioned. Rooms booked in both names. One labeled anniversary getaway. The date? The same weekend he claimed to be at a conference in Seattle. That was the weekend he told me. You wouldn't enjoy the panels. I believed him. I stayed home. There were voice notes. His voice, her laugh, jokes about me. She still thinks I'm going through a rough patch, he said in one. They laughed. Loud, careless. That kind of laugh you only do when you think you're untouchable. I started building a file. One folder became 10. Every receipt. Every screenshot. Every lie. Labeled and cross-referenced. Dates aligned. Gaps filled. The timeline was no longer blurry. It was brutal. And unshakable. Jordan helped me draft the legal side. Financial misrepresentation. Commingling business expenses. Ethical violations. Infidelity wasn't a crime, but fraud was. Especially when you use joint funds to finance your mistress's skincare and silk robes. I contacted Brielle's HR department again, this time with a formal complaint. Attachments, documentation, a concise breakdown of policy violations and company conduct guidelines. They responded with a meeting request. Internal review pending. My lawyer joined the call. Her boss looked like she wanted to disappear. Meanwhile, Mark tried a new tactic. Sympathy. I'm not perfect, he texted, but I never stopped loving you. I stared at the message for a full minute. Love? That wasn't love. That was possession. Ownership. His version of love was control, wrapped in charisma. I started getting DMs. Women I didn't know. Some had worked with him. One sent screenshots. Mark had a pattern. A clear one. Late-night flirting. Power dynamics. Promises. Some said no. Some didn't. But all of them remembered how fast he changed when boundaries were drawn. I printed the screenshots. Added them to the file. Called it the archive. It felt clinical. Like evidence for a museum exhibit called How He Operated. I wasn't doing this for revenge anymore. I was doing it for the record. So I'd never forget how deep the rot went. I found an old email chain where he and Brielle joked about our prenup, about how she'd never be that vindictive. That was the final crack, the piece that turned the wound into fuel. They counted on my silence, on my dignity. They forgot I also had rage. That night, I stood in front of the mirror, looked at myself, not to check makeup, to see, to acknowledge the woman who had been lied to, diminished, used, and to remind her they don't win because they cheat. They win because you let it destroy you. But I wasn't destroyed. I was reborn, with proof, and I knew exactly where to use it next. I didn't tell him I was leaving. I didn't need to. I scheduled the movers for a weekday morning while he was at a client lunch. By the time he got home, the house echoed. Empty shelves, bare walls, just space, and a single envelope. On the kitchen counter, inside the envelope was the spa invoice, printed, highlighted, annotated, with a sticky note. She was worth your marriage? Let's see if she's worth your career. Beneath that, I left my ring. And the remote too, the home security system I'd changed the password for. His text came in waves, shock, denial, then anger. You're making a scene. We can fix this. You're being dramatic. But I'd already blocked him on every device, every number, every trace. My silence was louder than any fight he expected. Brielle? Her work email bounced back 2 days later. No longer with the company. HR doesn't play when receipts arrive signed with timestamps and policy violations. Diane, her boss, sent me a final note. We appreciate your thorough documentation. Translation. We fired her, quietly, efficiently. Jordan filed the business. Separation papers the same week. I removed my name from every joint account, reclaimed my shares. The lawyers said he was stunned. Said he'd assumed I'd stay passive, predictable, play nice. But I wasn't nice anymore. I was done. I went public. One post. Calm. Strategic. When your husband books a couple's massage and forgets who the couple is, send the invoice to HR. No names, just truth. The comment section exploded. Shares, DMs, stories. I wasn't alone. So many women had almost sent the invoice. I actually did. He tried to run damage control, posted a vague apology about personal challenges and growth through mistakes. But no one bought it. His network didn't respond. His clients stopped calling. His email signature started to lose value. Fast. A week later, I got a letter, handwritten, from him. Pages of regret, promises, explanations I didn't ask for. I didn't open it, just burned it in the sink, one page at a time, because apologies, without accountability, are just PR moves. And I was done with marketing lies. Brielle texted me from a burner number. "You didn't have to ruin everything," I replied once. "You helped him ruin me. I just returned the favor." Then blocked her, too. Permanently. She can keep the robe. I kept the dignity. I hosted a dinner with women from my circle, some old, some new. We raised glasses, laughed loudly. It wasn't just a celebration. It was a funeral for every version of me that made herself small for someone else's ego. I wore red that night. Mark hated red. The last thing I did? I sent a final email. To Mark. To his personal address. Subject line, final receipt. Attached was a photo of the spa invoice, the robe with my initials, and a new invoice. This one from the lawyer's office. Full separation. No negotiations. He thought I wouldn't find out. He thought I wouldn't fight back. He thought he broke me. But I became his biggest regret. My new place is small, quiet. Sunlight filters through sheer curtains in the morning like a promise. No footsteps behind me. No phones buzzing with lies. Just me. Breathing. Healing. Remembering who I was before I was somebody's secret casualty. Painted the bedroom a soft gold. Mark hated warm tones. Said they were too loud. I let that silence my walls for years. Now they speak for me. Every inch of this space is mine. No second opinions, no compromise, just freedom. I got my name back on the business, rebranded it, changed the tagline. Built by truth. It felt right. Clients returned, quietly at first, then confidently. They knew what I stood for now. Not appearances, not optics. Integrity. The kind that's earned through fire. Sophie from marketing pulled me aside after a meeting. "You're different now," she said. Like, solid. I smiled. I stopped asking for permission to exist. That moment stayed with me. Because when a woman reclaims her story, the whole world feels it. I went back to the spa. Not the same one. A new place. Alone. I booked a single massage. Walked in, head high. When they asked, "Any guests joining you?" I said, "No, just me." And it felt powerful, whole. I wasn't missing a half. I was complete. Sometimes I still see his name pop up on LinkedIn. Fewer connections, fewer endorsements. The slow digital death of a reputation. I never click. I don't need to. I already know the ending. He chose temporary pleasure. I chose permanent truth. Jordan and I launched a mini project, supporting women exiting toxic partnerships. We call it the Invoice Project. A metaphor, a mission, a movement. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction, it's documentation. It's saying, "Here's what you did. Here's who I became anyway." Brielle never resurfaced. Last I heard, she moved cities. Quiet exit, no fanfare. That's how shame travels, with its head down. I don't hate her. I don't think about her. She was a symptom. He was the disease. And I'm the cure. My favorite ritual now? Tea at sunset. 1 cup. one chair. No one to lie to me, no one to reset without me. Just me. Honest. Alive. Whole. I wear the red robe she left behind. I had it dry cleaned. Reclaimed it. Reversed. The insult. Because I didn't get closure. I got freedom. And freedom wears my name now. This wasn't heartbreak. It was awakening.